Like imagine how hard it was for them. So, this book is narrated majority is narrated in Spain. So you were in the 5th or 6th century and you want a copy of Ibn Jarud. So where are you going to get it? So first of all, I have to travel. Everything about traveling is dangerous and difficult, right? So there's no such thing as cars, no such thing as trains. So ships, camels, horses, right, on foot. Danger. Because it takes time, it's extremely expensive because you have to, imagine if you have to eat, right? Like your flight, you fly from to Saudi, it takes you what, like 15 hours, right? Like so you only have to eat for a day. Now you need to have provisions. You're going to leave your family. You're going to travel for 2 months. You have to provide the rent and food for all those people that time, and for the journey is very hard, and the guides and the this and the that, and then the ink, and the ink is not mass produced, so therefore it's super expensive. And then the paper, and paper is not mass produced, so therefore it's extremely expensive, right? Everything's expensive. You have to copy it out, right? You have to do this, have to do that. It's like everything about it is hard, right? And we're like, oh, I'm having trouble opening preview. Like let's imagine how hard it was. Like imagine if every month I had to buy a new computer, you know? That's probably cheaper than what they did in terms if you look at like man hours and everything, right? Like paper was really expensive. Ink was really expensive. Everything's like hard to get hold of. Your pen, your pencil, you know? One of the scholars, I think he bought a pencil for like a ridiculous amount of money because he just needed it. So subhanAllah, it's a really key thing to think about. You have a headache. What are you going to do right now? Ammar has a headache. He takes some, you know, painkiller. So it's there. He doesn't have it at home. He just clicks on the app, right? In 20 minutes there, right? Uber Eats or whatever it is, whatever it delivers at your house. Like, everything's super easy. Like it's not a big deal. For them, everything is hard. Going to the bathroom, you go outside, it's freezing, right? You're coming home, it's cold, there's a leak. Everything is difficult in life. Your wife gives birth, oh, she died. The baby died. It's normal, right? Women die giving birth, babies die in the first year. It's like normal. Like this, everything's hard about life. But our life is very, very easy. Right? So we really have to think about it. SubhanAllah, may Allah forgive us. Okay, so we did this, inshallah, and we had that whole discussion about the different approaches and how the Maliki Hanafi approach is very, very different to our approach. Shafi, excuse me. Shafi'i, Shafi'i Hanbali approach. Okay. Books, right? Getting books, getting access to books, very hard. They say Ibn Hazm didn't have access to a Tirmidhi, right? For me, like right now, like I don't have access to Tirmidhi. Within 15 seconds, you could download the whole of Tirmidhi. A minute, give you 2 minutes. You have access to the whole thing. A search engine, searching hadiths, Google it, ChatGPT. What does Ibn Hazm say about this? Right? So we really have to think about things. Like it's really, really important to like sit back and think. There's this comic book that my kids have, and there's this like wandering wali of Allah that kind of solves problems for people. And so there's this man on a boat. Okay, he's on a boat and he's super scared. He's like, man, like I'm freaking out because I'm on a boat. This is so unbelievably scary. I can't sleep. I can't feel like I want to get off the boat. I want to get off the boat. I want to get off the boat. So then somebody asked the sheikh, says, Sheikh, can you solve this problem? He says, sure. He says, I just need a rope, a long rope. So he ties the man up in a rope and throws him overboard. And the man is tied up in the in the river, in the sea, and he's almost dying of because he can't swim because he's got his arms tied up, and he's being held afloat just about by this with this rope, right? And then they eventually pull the guy out, and he's like frozen to death. He's and just like shocked of what happened. He gets a bit warm and then he falls asleep and he's very, very happy in the ship again. So then somebody asked the sheikh, like, what was that all about? Like, we asked you to solve the problem. You almost drowned the guy. He says, well, how is he now? Well, he's fine. So you see, like the ship was fine. Right? The ship was not perfect, but it was fine. You can be cool, calm, collected on a ship. But when the ship is taken away from you, you realize how much you need it. Right? So he didn't have it. He didn't have the safety of the ship. So therefore, and when he came back to it, he was like, oh, I felt better now, and he could rest. Right? And so we put yourself in a small amount of pressure, take away the internet, take away electricity, take away the ink, take away this, take away that, and then suddenly, oh my God, right? Life is really, really hard on multiple levels, right? Um, and then, you know, but in reality, our life is we live a, excuse me, super luxurious and easy life, right? Unbelievably easy life. May Allah protect us all and forgive us all. Okay, so it says next chapter. He says, um, ما جاء في التباعد للخلاء حدثنا محمد بن يحيى قال حدثنا يزيد بن هارون. So we mentioned before these shuyukh, they're not particularly important. They're important, right? But they're not particularly important because there are so many of them. Here, when we get to Yazid ibn Harun, right, Muhammad ibn Amr, Abu Salama, these are important people now, right? Because these are the more rare people. So Yazid ibn Harun, super thiqah that we hear all the time. حدثنا Muhammad ibn Amr, not sure who he is. Um, uh, and then he says, An Abi Salama. So this is the son of Abdurrahman ibn Auf. His name is Abu Salama. Right? عن المغيرة بن شعبة الصحابي قال كنت مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في بعض أسفاره وكان إذا ذهب لحاجته أبعد في المذهب. He used to go far away, even though it was inconvenient because you're on a journey and it's not so safe, right? But he would make a distance. So that's what we should do in our houses, right? There's a bathroom upstairs, go to the bathroom upstairs. Yeah, but it's hard. It's not that hard, Habibi, right? There's a bathroom downstairs, a bathroom upstairs. If you went to the bathroom downstairs, could people kind of hear you just about maybe? No, it's around the corner, it's far away. Okay, as long as they can't hear you, right, and obviously can't smell you, right, then it's fine. But if it's kind of like they can kind of like if it was a quiet room, you could hear you going to the bathroom, you should go somewhere else, go upstairs. Alhamdulillah, you have a luxury of having a house, a bathroom inside your house, and more than one, most people, right? Um, so, is everybody here in America? Ammar, you in America, Jawad, you in America, right? Zafar, you're in England, right? Is it normal to have two bathrooms in England, Zafar?
No, no.
It's not, right? So, anybody coming from America, you go to England, it's like, whoa, these guys are like poor, right? And we're wealthy, right? England is a wealthy country. Right? But it's like it's common in England that you have a bathroom. That bathroom is actually originally an outhouse. Like it's downstairs and it's further at the end of the garden and it's connected to the house through something else. It's quite common. I.e., people used to go to the bathroom outside. Right? It's called an outhouse. So um, you know, when it's easy, you're an American. You have the big American house and you have three bathrooms, 3.5 bathrooms. Like yeah. Go to the bathroom, right? Go to the bathroom elsewhere. It's better to do that. Okay, حدثنا أبو جعفر أحمد بن سعيد أحمد بن سعيد الدارمي. I don't think this is الدارمي though. That's Abu Uthman الدارمي. So I don't think this is الدارمي. قال حدثنا النضر. I believe this is نضر ibn Shumail. والله أعلم. قال حدثنا شعبة الحجاج, the kind of mastermind of hadith criticism. قال حدثنا عبد العزيز بن صهيب قال سمعت أنس. Right? So Shu'bah is late. So this is a very short chain here. Why? Because Sayyidina Anas passed away in 91, right? He passed away like a decade, like 10 years or more after Imam Abu Hanifa was born. So Sayyidina Anas passed away really late, right? The world has changed drastically since time that the Prophet Sayyidina Bakr, Sayyidina Umar, Sayyidina Uthman, Sayyidina Ali, and then the Umayyads. You're well into the Umayyads by this time, right? It's the time of Sayyidina Anas. So Sayyidina Anas, many of the short chains, they are through Sayyidina Anas and through Wathila ibn Asqar, right? So if you look at the Thulathiyat of Bukhari, right, where there's three people between Imam Bukhari and the Prophet ﷺ, they are usually through Sayyidina Anas or Wathila ibn Asqar, right? I believe Wathila ibn Asqar might have been passed away even later than that, after 90, maybe in the year 100 or something. قال كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا دخل الخلاء قال اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الخبث والخبائث. So this kind of hadith, again, a Maliki Hanafi would say it's not an issue. You're not changing the Sharia, big deal. Right? I don't have a problem with narrating hadith like this. You're not changing the systems that we might be familiar with. Right? You're not trying to prove anything. Right? So either it's going to agree with our principles, which would be fine, or it's going to disagree with our principles, which would be problematic. But here, it's not a big deal. Right? So al-khubuth, plural of khabith, like subul, sabil, and khaba'ith, plural of khabitha, right? Fadila, fada'il, right? So the male, Allah seek protection in you from the shayateen, male and female, right? I remember asking one of my teachers about this. I said, like, what's the big deal about being in the bathroom? So there are shayateen who are dedicated to the bathroom and they mess people up. And go and try it if you want. There are people who have serious OCD issues because that's what they're trying to do, right? Or other issues there as well. So I believe in the Hanbali school, if we have any Hanbalis here, you can double check, it's actually sinful to remain in the bathroom, right? To delay in the bathroom is actually sinful. It's not just makruh, it's actually haram, right? Okay, so then it says كراهية استقبال القبلة للغائط والبول والاستنجاء, right? So he says حدثني يوسف بن موسى القطان قال حدثنا أبو معاوية ووكيع ومحمد بن فضيل, right? So that's he has there's at least three people there. So this is something we were mentioning in the previous class, the Ibn Qassar class today, those who were in there, right? Is that a lot of these hadiths are widespread, right? So this hadith is not narrated only by Waki', right? So this is Waki' is the level of the teachers of Imam Shafi'i. So we say we have Bukhari's level, then we have Imam Shafi'i, then we have Imam Malik, right? That's like that tabaqa, right? And then we have maybe two or three people, and then the Prophet ﷺ. So by the time of Imam Malik, hadiths are kind of getting widespread. By the time of Imam Shafi'i, very much so, right? Like I don't think Imam Shafi'i literally narrates hadith that no one else knows, right? Maybe we might find a hadith today that we only have narrated by Imam Shafi, but that's not really the case, right? By the time of Imam Shafi, all the hadiths are to do with halal and haram and main hadiths, right? You don't find a unique hadith that nobody else has, right? So here we can see that things are already spreading out. So the source here is kind of academic, that we're narrating it from so and so to so and so. It's already widespread, right? This is known as the hadith of Al-A'mash from Ibrahim al-Nakhai from Abdurrahman ibn Yazid, and that's it. Right? It's widespread like that. ومحمد بن فضيل قال وقال يوسف واللفظ للضرير قالوا حدثنا الأعمش. They all said حدثنا الأعمش, right? The student of Imam Abu Hanifa, and Ibrahim النخعي عن عبد الرحمن بن يزيد قال قيل لسلمان رضي الله عنه قد علمكم نبيكم كل شيء حتى الخراءة with a كسرة, not الخراءة. So whereas it's الخراءة, I believe, with a كسرة. I believe Abu Sulaiman mentions this. Abu Sulaiman al-Khattabi mentions this in his in his not al-Khara'a but al-Khira'a. Just give me a second, let me look this up. Okay, my apologies. So let's share this 1 second. So we looked at Abu Sulaiman al-Khattabi, and we said Abu Sulaiman al-Khattabi said most narrators narrate it with a fatha, which is wrong, and they change it into feces. He's taught you feces. And he says it's actually with a kasra, which means how to relieve yourself. Okay? And then we went to Nihaya, في غريب الأثر by Ibn Athir, and he said, yes, that's true. Abu Sulaiman al-Khattabi mentions that. However, al-Jawhari said otherwise, that it is khara'a with a fatha, and just like you say karaha and kiraha, and it's possible that there's slightly difference in meaning between the two, but it's not a mistake, right? It's not a mistake here. It's not an error. It's just they're following the position of Jawhari and not the opinion of Abu Sulaiman al-Khattabi. Okay. So here's a question, Jawad, right? We talk about maturity of sciences, right? And we spoke about like Shafi fiqh, how long it took to develop, right? And so, for example, the maturity of the Shafi fiqh kind of starts to come in like in the 7th, 8th century with Imam Nawawi and then thereafter. So Abu Sulaiman is very early. He's in the 4th century. Johuri is late, and Ibn Athir, I think, is in like 7th or 8th century, right? So how should I access this thing called Gharib al-Hadith, like tricky words in hadith? Should I go to Abu Sulaiman al-Khattabi? Should I go to Jawhari, or should I go to the late work Nihaya?
The later work, Nihaya.
That's what that was the term we said, access points, right? I'm talking about access points. So, I've got this book. I have Islah Ghalat al-Muhaddithin by Abu Sulaiman al-Khattabi. I like to read it. It's interesting, right? He's correcting mistakes that people make. I have Ibn Qutayba, who's even before him, right? Gharib al-Hadith of Abu Qutayba, but it's kind of like outdated, if that makes sense, right? So what you had is like all of that work, you get the Nihaya, you get to this point in Islamic history where basically all the discussions come together in the 6th, 7th, 8th centuries, right? Possibly 9 as well, right? Sometimes even later, possibly 10, right? Depending on how much work's going on, etc. But that's generally speaking, you get to this peak, you get to a pinnacle where every rebuttal has been we've either agreed on a point or we've agreed to disagree. Right? There's nothing new to be said. There's nothing new you're going to find, right? And then there's refinement on that, which is something else. But that's that basic point in history. 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th century. That's basically everything. That is like that is maturity of the Islamic sciences. Hence, the same dates, all the key works written in those period, key late referent works. That's what I'm going to refer to. That is the standard thing to go to, right? Abu Sulaiman says one thing, Johari says something else. We debate forward, back and forward, and then okay, here's a conclusion, if that makes sense. Okay. قال أجل لقد نهانا أن نستقبل القبلة بغائط أو بول, right? أو نستنجي بأيماننا with our right hands, أو يستنجي أحدنا بأقل من 3 أحجار, وألا يستنجي أحدنا برجيع with what's the word? Dung or عظم or bones, right? And the reason being is that these are the food of the jinn and that they are najas. So they are muhtaram. So by a fortiori, you can't use bread, or you couldn't use something muhtaram, like a person. Couldn't wipe your private parts on a person, and that counts as wiping. It doesn't. So anything that's muhtaram, you couldn't do that by a fortiori, by a better right. And anything that's najas, you couldn't do that either. Right? So this is a proof for the Shafi'is against the Malikis and Hanbalis that again that the waste of edible animals is najas, right? Because we're going to say, why would the Prophet ﷺ forbid us from using something that is like wood, something that's like paper, like dry camel dung or sheep dung or horse manure? Like, what's wrong with that? If it's pure, why can't I use it? It's not muhtaram, it's not this, not that. So the answer is it's najas, right? Or we could say no, the answer is that it is the food of the jinn, in which case the illah, the reason for not being able to use bones and not being able to use animal waste is both that it is the food of the jinn. So therefore, it's not a proof at all, right? And that's why we find some Shafi'is as well, I believe like Ibn Hibban and others, saying that yes, the waste of edible animals is pure. Right? That's a position in the school. Ibn Mundhir as well. حدثنا أبو سعيد عبد الله بن سعيد الأشج قال حدثني عقبة يعني ابن خالد قال حدثنا عبيد الله يعني ابن عمر حدثني محمد بن يحيى بن حبان عن عن واسع ابن حبان عن ابن عمر قال رقيت I went up, right? So Jawad, you in the previous class, right? Like laqitu, you say raqiya, raqitu and raqu, and then you say arqa, right? Yarqa, anti tarqayna wa hum yarqawna, to go up, okay? To go up something. So raqitu, I went up on top of فوق بيت حفصة فرأيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقضي الحاجة مستقبل بيت المقدس مستدبر الكعبة. Right, so he's in Medina and he's relieving himself and he is with his back to the Qibla and facing Jerusalem. Okay, so that tells us what? Tells us that relieving yourself in a building, in a bathroom, with a wall in front of you is permissible. That's not considered facing the Qibla, right? Because you have a barrier in front of you, right? And the Shafis have certain criterion of what that means. Okay. It also tells us about what about the direction of the Qibla? So imagine you are Ibn Umar, you were this young boy, you happened to be climbing the roof, you didn't mean to spy on the Prophet ﷺ, but anyway, you saw him relieving himself outside, and he's there, and he's facing Jerusalem, and he has back to the Qibla. If you go to Medina, can you draw a line from Jerusalem to Medina to the Kaaba, such that you would face Jerusalem and have your back to the Qibla? Is that actually a line? It's not a line, is it? So let's imagine, let's play a game. In Ibn Umar's mind, does he see the Qibla as a dot or does he see it as a general direction? When he says Bayt al-Maqdis, Jerusalem, does he think of it as a general direction or does he think of it as a dot?
Direction.
Right. Same thing with the Kaaba. He's has back to the Kaaba as a general direction. So this is the argument of Muhibb al-Din al-Tabari of the Shafi'is, right? Muhibb al-Din al-Tabari, about the same time as Imam Nawawi, a little bit before him, Mufti of Mecca. In his إحكام في his غاية الإحكام في أحاديث الأحكام, he takes this hadith and the hadith I think we're going to see next, or maybe another hadith. We'll see soon, inshallah. He said, look, the way that you know when we talk about the way that they're talking about going to the bathroom is quite strict in terms of facing the Qibla, right? Like you got to turn to the east or turn to the west. That means that window that you have to avoid when relieving yourself in the open area with no tree and no wall, etc., that window that you have to avoid is fairly broad. It's not just a dot. So the Shafis, we say it's a dot. Like here's the Qibla, you turn 1 centimeter, one degree to the right, you're not facing the Qibla anymore. Khalas, it's halal. He says not like that. So he says no, it's a jihah, which means you have to be stricter when relieving yourself and more lenient in prayer, right? And you will find other Shafis of saying that as well. Like the position that it's a jihah, it does exist in the Shafi school. It's not very strong, right? Usually the idea of jihah in the Shafi school means, like Imam Ghazali has the position of jihah, meaning if you made a mistake, the jihah is enough, the general direction, right? That's what Imam Ghazali says. Like you made ijtihad, and then it turned out with ilm that it was wrong, right? You prayed with ijtihad towards a wall, that wall broke down, and you saw the Kaaba to your right or to your left. You see, how far was it off? Was it the same general direction? Yes. Okay, that's fine. The Shafi'i school would say no. If it's not the actual ayn, like you have to face the Qibla itself. So if you find out categorically that you're praying in the if you're 5 degrees off, then it's off. Khalas. You have to repeat those prayers, even if it's the whole your whole you know through ijtihad you prayed for the last 20 years facing this way. You broke the wall down in Mecca and you realized the Kaaba is a little bit to your right. You have to repeat all of those prayers in the Shafi school. Imam Ghazali says no, you don't. That's not correct. The jiha is okay if you made a mistake. Imam Ghazali does not say you can follow jiha just to begin with. Right here, this position that we're talking about is just to begin with. Like I'm not even trying to get the actual thing. I'm just looking at the general direction, right? And that position does exist in the Shafi school, but it's not very common, right? And that was a position adopted by Muhibb al-Din al-Tabari. This is not Ibn Jarir al-Tabari. Ibn Jarir al-Tabari, 4th century Mujtahid Imam, one of the four Muhammads. This is uh, this is Muhibb al-Din al-Tabari, right? 7th century, um, 7th century Hadith scholar and faqih, commentator on the Tanbih, has a commentary on the Tanbih, and apparently has lots of his own opinions on it. Allahu A'lam. But if you look in Bughat al-Mustarshideen, Jawad and other Shafi'is, you're going to see some discussions here. Okay, it says حدثنا أبو الأزهر أحمد بن الأزهر قال حدثني يعقوب يعني ابن إبراهيم ابن سعد قال حدثني أبي عن ابن إسحاق قال حدثني أبان بن صالح عن مجاهد بن جبر عن جابر بن عبد الله قال كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم نهانا أن نستقبل القبلة أو نستقبل بفروجنا إذا أهرقنا الماء ثم قال رأيته قبل موته بعام يبول مستقبل القبلة. So there's a كدليل, there's all mansukh, right? There's abrogated. So he's saying the Prophet ﷺ had, right? Kana nahana, past plus past is what's called the pluperfect, right? You say fa'altu, I did. Kuntu fa'altu, I had done, right? قلت ذلك, I said that. قد قلت ذلك, I have said that. كنت قلت ذلك, I had said that. It's called the pluperfect, or it's called the past perfect. Okay, so he had previously forbidden us to face the Qibla or have our backs to the Qibla when we are with our private parts, when we are urinating. And then I saw him urinating, facing the Qibla 1 year after he passed away. So we're going to say what? This is mujmal. We're going to say that presumably he had a wall, he had a tree, he had something in front of him. That's what we're going to say. We're not going to say it's mansukh. We're going to say maybe he had a tree in front of him, maybe something like that. So as we mentioned in the Ibn al-Qassar class, for those of you, it said when the Prophet ﷺ does something, that doesn't make it am, that makes it mujmal. Am means it is 100% halal in all scenarios to face the Qibla while urinating, as opposed to the Prophet ﷺ faced the Qibla while urinating. What was he? Was he in front of a bush or not? Was he in front of a wall or not? I don't know. Okay, so that's not am. That's not all inclusive. That is specific to the scenario that he did it in, and I don't know what that scenario is. So I can't do that much with it. Right? And this hadith as well, here it's in dal, ta, and qaf. What does that mean? Dal, ta, and qaf.
Ta is Tirmidhi, Da is Abu Dawud, and um, I don't remember Qaf.
Qaf, Qazwini,
Ibn Ma'ad.
Ibn Imam.
Zwini.
Exactly, Khalq Qazwini, yeah. Great. Okay, so is it sahih? So maybe the hadith is weak, Allahu alam, and maybe and regardless, we're not gonna. It's mujmal. It's not clear what hadith. Was he facing a wall? Was it not? We don't know. حدثنا محمد بن يحيى قال حدثنا صفوان بن عيسى عن الحسن بن ذكوان عن مروان الأصفر قال رأيت ابن عمر وأناخ راحلته حال, and he had just made his rahila, his camel, go down on its feet. مستقبل القبلة ثم جلس يبول إليها. Right, he was next to the camel urinating. فقلت أبا عبد الرحمن أو أبا عبد الرحمن أليس قد نهي عن هذا? Isn't it haram to face the Qibla when you have to face the Qibla when you're urinating? قال بلى, yes it is. إنما نهي عن ذلك في الفضاء. Right, it was an open space. فإذا كان بينك وبين القبلة شيء يسترك فلا بأس. Right, so this hadith is bayan of this ijmal, right, and of this ijmal, right. So we're going to say here there's a barrier, here there's a barrier, here's a barrier, right? This is what he's doing. Now he's not doing that independently. Ibn Jarud is not doing that independently. He's doing this after listening to the fiqh. So we have to understand, as we mentioned before, fiqh precedes hadith, and these abwab he's putting there, they are all based on. So a fiqh without hadith, what would it look like? It would look like a musnad. Sorry, hadith without fiqh would look like a musnad. You would say, hadith narrated from Abu Hurairah, hadith narrated from Aisha, these are organized on abwab. Where did you get the concepts to begin with? How did you organize it? Why did you put this hadith and that hadith? Because you're working as a faqih. Where did you study fiqh? With the fuqaha. Thank you very much. Right? So we have to have both. Right? Imam Muzani said this. He said, look very carefully to the hadiths that you narrate. Right? And check them with the fuqaha. And see which ones are acted upon and how does it work. Because if you do that, you will become muhaddithin fuqaha. And otherwise you won't. Right? So you need to put the two together. Otherwise, you just narrate hadith and you don't really know what that even means, how it all comes together. And you might even make blatant mistakes because you don't know what it means and you rate it in an incorrect way. So Abu Sulaiman's essay is mistakes that people make in hadith narration. Right? So they are narrating a hadith and they're actually changing the word totally. And that's not the word at all. Right? Because they don't know Arabic or they don't know fiqh or whatever it is. He says, ما يتقى من مواضع للغائط والبول, places you shouldn't narrate. And he says, حدثنا ربيع بن سليمان. Who is ربيع بن سليمان? ربيع بن سليمان المرادي, scribe of Imam الشافعي. Right? This is Imam Shafi's scribe. ربيع بن سليمان المرادي. Right? When Shafi school, we're talking about the Mukhtasar of Rabi' and Risala. It was written out by Rabi' and we have it in his hand. We have the Rabi''s we have it in his handwriting. Rabi' ibn Sulaiman al-Muradi. Okay? And he is in which place? Where is he going to be then, Jawad? Where are the other Shafis here? And Ammar. Where was Imam Shafi at the end of his life?
Cairo.
He is in Masr, right? In Misr, right? So this is in Egypt. So as the Muhaddith, so Ibn Jarud is coming from Central Asia. He's going to have to go to Mecca, Medina, Kufa, Basra, Jazeera, Missis in Turkey, Fustat in Egypt, right? He might go further. I don't know if he's going to go further east. Khurasan, the cities of Khurasan, Maru, Balkh, all these different places, right? You have to travel a lot to collect hadiths. So he's clearly spent time, obviously, in Egypt. Who narrates from Ibn Wahab? Ibn Wahab is a student of Imam Malik, right? So he's an Egyptian student of Imam Malik. أن ابن وهب أخبرهم قال أخبرني سليمان يعني ابن بلال عن علاء. This is علاء ابن عبد الرحمن. حدثنا علاء. This is علاء ibn. That's Muhammad ibn Ala. I'm not sure who this is then. I'm maybe mixing the two up. I'm pretty sure this is Ala. Muhammad ibn Ala. Maybe his name is Ala ibn Muhammad ibn Abdul Rahman. Maybe mixing the two up. But no, this is a classic Ala from his father, from Abu Hurairah. This is a classic OK chain. Give me 1 second, please. I have this nice little book somewhere that I have of my frequently used hadith narrators. Yeah, this little book, a modern book on common chains. I'm pretty sure this is. He's Muhammad ibn Ala. So am I mixing the two up? This hadith is in Meme and Dal. What's Meme and Dal?
Muslim and Abu Dawud.
Muslim and Abu Dawud, right? And so I know that Bukhari will not accept this kind of chain. So this chain is good, but it's not that amazing. So this is Ala. This could be Ala ibn Ibrahim. Let me mixing the two up 1 second. Where you found him? Ala ibn Abdurrahman. There we go, right? He is Ala ibn Abdurrahman and not Abdurrahman ibn Ala. Ala ibn Abdurrahman and an abihi. So this is these kind of hadiths. I'm trying to find it here though. I can't. Maybe it's not on this list, but it's of the acceptable chains. So these kind of chains that are kind of okay. So this is an example of a level where like Imam Muslim would accept it. Imam Muslim will accept it, but Imam Bukhari won't. Right? Ala ibn Abdurrahman an abihi, an Abi Hurairah. That's a classic chain, but he won't. But so Imam Bukhari won't accept that. So it's in Meme. It's not in Bukhari. So when you're saying it's hadith is sahih, how sahih do you want it? What kind of level? So let's say, for example, Imam Muslim is saying 75% and above. Imam Bukhari is saying, no, I want 80 and above. Right? So that's one of these differences. Jazakum khair. And Rasulullah قال اجتنبوا اللعانين. Avoid the oft cursing two things. قالوا وما اللعانان. قال يا رسول الله قال الذي يتبرز على طريق الناس أو في مجلس قوم. Somebody who يتبرز, they defecate in a place where people walk or people gather, right? Unless it's they gather there for sin, in which case you can do that. جزاكم خير. It was in the موقظة, right? هذا الإسناد لم يخرج له بخاري وأخرج له مسلم. جزاكم الله خير. So the موقظة is a very important book. I have a recording on it, those of you who've seen it. It's a very unique book, and it has things that other books don't have as a matan. الذي يتبرز, right, so defecating in a place. So this is assuming that it's an open place, not someone's land, of course. An open place that's not owned by you, not owned by somebody else, but people gather there, so it's makruh to do that, etc. حدثنا أبو جعفر المخرمي محمد بن عبد الله المبارك عن قال حدثنا معاذ بن هشام new chain. So he's saying I have one chain that goes up, so my teacher who narrated from his teacher, new chain. Ishaq ibn Mansur, who narrated from Mu'adh, who narrated from here, the same Mu'adh. So I have my teacher narrates, said, حدثنا معاذ ibn Hisham. My other teacher has the same chain. So they go back to Mu'adh. Right? This is called half tahwil. قال حدثني أبي عن قتادة ibn Da'ama as-Sadusi. So Qatada ibn Da'ama as-Sadusi is a good example of Muslims teaming up despite differences. So Qatada had some weird beliefs, as many of the Salaf had, some weird beliefs. But they still narrated from him, because he was a scholar who said, leave his weird beliefs and accept everything else. عن عبد الله ابن سرجس أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا يبولن أحدكم في الحجر. هذا حديث إسحاق. وزاد قالوا لقتادة ما تكره من البول في الحجر. What's the problem of urinating in a layer, like an animal layer. قال يقال إنها مساكن الجن. It is said it is the abode of the jinn. I.e. jinn can also mean snakes. It's the abode of the snakes or abode of jinn. So you're harming somebody. It's makruh to do that because you may harm somebody. Because you may harm it, it's makruh. Right? قال حدثنا محمد بن يحيى وأحمد بن يوسف, as opposed to urinating on top of an animal, right? That'd be haram. قال حدثنا عبد الرزاق, this is Abd al-Razzaq as-San'ani. This is the 8,000 book that Ammar and Abd al-Jawad are going to buy. The Musannaf Abd al-Razzaq. قال حدثنا معمر, right? And Ma'mar ibn Rashid, he has a book called Al-Jami'. That book has recently been published, and it was previously thought to kind of be included in the Musannaf Abd al-Razzaq as-San'ani, but it's not. It's actually different. So this book has recently come out. It's like a, so if you can imagine, these are the author of the 6 books. They're studying with people who are studying with Abdul Razzaq as-San'ani. He has a book. And Abdul Razzaq as-San'ani is studying people, and they have books as well. This is Ma'mar. Ma'mar ibn Rashid has his own Jami', a collection of hadith. Right? That book has recently come out with the tahqiq of Sheikh Ahmed, Dr. Ahmed al-Ma'bad in Egypt. And Ash'ath, or at least his Ishraf, like he was involved in the whole process. Allahu Alam. So put that list, Ammar and Jawad, book 5022, Jami' of Ma'mar ibn Rashid. And Ash'ath and Al-Hasan عن عبد الله بن المغفل قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يبولن أحدكم في مستحمه فإن عامة الوسواس منه. In his place of bathing, you should not urinate in the place where you're bathing, because that's going to cause waswas. That's a disgusting thing to do. You're going to put filth on you, and you're going to have doubts about your purity, etc. So you should not do that. Okay, inshallah, we'll stop here. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. And Ammar and Jawad also got the Muqidha as well. That's obviously another book to buy. The Muqidha. Inshallah. You will be in debt the whole life. Inshallah, Ya Rab.